Hello you gorgeous people, this is Chris from TechSperts and I'm here with the spangly new Honor View 20 or V20 as you kids like to call it. It's Honor's latest 2019 flagship smartphone, packs some premium design, some very slick specs and features as well. I'm going to do a full side-by-side with Huawei's P20 Pro and Mate 20 Pro, still two of the very best smartphones that you can buy in 2019. See how they compare for the specs, the camera tech, the features and everything else that you need to know to see which one might be best for you. And don't forget, for more on the V20 and the latest and greatest mobile tech, to subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first of all, stick them all side by side as I've done here, and you'll notice that they're all pretty bloody massive actually. The P20 Pro is actually the dinkier of the three at 6.1 inches, not exactly compact. And meanwhile, the Honor View 20 and the Huawei Mate 20 Pro are 6.4 inch behemoths. Of course, one of the differentiating factors between the three, all three of them have displays that pretty much fill the front panel of these smartphones, but you do get a bit of notch action on the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro, especially on the Mate 20 Pro. That is a full-on tash right there. Whereas the V20 has got this very funky front-facing camera. It's actually built into the display itself, just housed off in the corner there. So it does actually look like the screen pretty much fills the front of the phone. It takes up basically 92% of that front panel. Flip them all around though and you'll see that of course they all sport the same glass finish here on the back. It looks absolutely shiny and sleek and gorgeous. We love the look of all three of these phones. Of course, they do tend to pick up smudges, scuffs when you're handling them as well, unfortunately, which does kind of ruin the appearance a little bit, but as long as you keep them well buffed up, they'll all be fine. And actually, the Honor V20 does a pretty good job of masking those fingerprints. Seems a bit more grease resistant than the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro. Now, the best looking models of the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro definitely got this awesome gradient finish. As you can see, the colour sort of shifts in tone from the top as you travel down to the bottom, from sort of purple to blue here on the P20 Pro and vice versa on the Mate 20 Pro. It's definitely a very stunning look and very unique among the smartphone contingency. Now, the Honor V20 likes to stand out a bit from the crowd, which is definitely commendable. As you can see there, it's got a funky sort of V design effect, which comes into play once it catches the light in a certain way. And as you can see there, when you actually look at it head on, that effect almost completely vanishes. It's definitely very, very alluring. All three of these smartphones, thankfully, pretty rugged as well. We've certainly had the P20 Pro for close to a year now. No signs of any scratches or scuffs there on that rear surface. Mate 20 Pro also seems nice and rugged from the sort of 3-4 months we've been rocking it. The V20 we've only had a very short while, but certainly seems to be in that same sort of category. We've banged it about a bit, sort of tread it with some disrespect since we first got it. And again, no scratches or scuffs so far, touch wood. But you do at least get a transparent cover bundled in the box with all three of these smartphones if you are a bit paranoid. If we head down below, you'll see that all three of them, of course, use Type-C USB. No surprise there for three premium devices. Of course, you've got your bottom-mounted speakers here on the V20 and on the P20 Pro. Sadly, there's no headphone jack on the P20 Pro or the Mate 20 Pro, but there is one on the V20, which is always great to see. So if you don't like those dongly things, then the V20 will definitely do the job for you. And rounding off the design stuff as well, it's also worth mentioning that the Honor View 20 doesn't have IP certification for the water resistance, but you do get a nice bit of IP67 water and dust resistance here on the P20 Pro, and it's IP68 on the Mate 20 Pro. So both of them can survive a dunking in the bath. You can take them in the shower for a sexy selfie, whatever you want to do. Now, if you focus back on the display tech, it's actually an OLED panel in the case of the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro, so you get nice bright visual imagery production, a nice punch in your face colours and everything as well. Here in the case of the View 20, I believe it's an IPS panel. Certainly the official specs don't specify what kind of display it is, but everyone seems to agree it's an IPS, probably because it would be a pain in the arse to punch a hole in the corner of an OLED panel, which is fair enough. All three of them, if you dive into the settings, you can go into the display and you can actually play around with the actual visual output, so colour mode and temperature. They're all set to vivid mode by default, so I've left them on that. And as you can see, the colours are actually pretty good here on this IPS panel on the View 20 as well, certainly in comparison with the OLEDs. We just go into the same image on all three. You'll see there the colours are nice and striking no matter which phone you choose. And here on the Mate 20 Pro especially, really loving the crisp detail you get, because it is a Quad HD Plus panel. 3120 by 1440 compared with the Full HD Plus that you get here on the View 20 and the P20 Pro. Certainly no complaints on the clarity here on these two either. You get nice crisp detail in there, as you can see. If anything, I'd say that the colours seem slightly more relaxed on the Mate 20 Pro compared with the other two, despite the fact that they're all in that vivid mode. But definitely nice and punch in your face without being like artificial and sickly sweet. But you can also stick them on the default colour mode as well if you don't like really vivid images. And the funny thing is as well, they've actually all got a notch option, which basically just sticks a bar across the top and just hides that notch from view if you're not really a fan of it. And even the View 20 has that option as well. If for some reason you don't like that tiny little dot up in the top left corner, you can just stick a massive black bar across there instead. Interesting. Now, if we dive into the About Phone section, you'll see that it's allegedly different software running all three. You do actually still get the older Android Oreo version 8.1.0 here on the P20 Pro, whereas that's been updated to Android Pie here on the Mate 20 Pro and the V20 as well. But the P20 Pro is currently getting its update to Pie, so stay tuned for that. Both of the Huawei phones, unsurprisingly, run Huawei's own EmoutionUI or EMUI. Again, a slightly older version here on the P20 Pro, but it's got most of the best features that you'll find on version 9 here on the Mate 20 Pro. Here on the View 20, it's actually running the new Magic UI version 2, in fact, to be precise. However, it is essentially EmoutionUI just under a different name. So if you dive into the system settings, you'll notice that certainly the Mate 20 Pro and the V20 have very, very similar features indeed, including the new digital balance feature. Dive into Smart Assistants, you get the one-handed mode, you get the motion control, the voice control. So even though it's called Magic UI, it is essentially EmoutionUI 9, basically the same setup and everything. And one of the best features in EmoutionUI is the security, because you do get a fingerprint sensor mounted here on the back in the case of the View 20, and that's really, really swift and responsive. You see, just a quick tap, boom, you're straight into your desktops, no worries. In the case of the P20 Pro, it's actually mounted beneath the screen, as you can see there, just has a bit of an extra bezel action, but again, it's still nice and swift and responsive. But here in the case of the Mate 20 Pro, it's actually mounted into the display itself, which is quite funky. It's not quite as swift or as accurate as on the other two handsets, unfortunately, but still does the job, and it's nice and tidy, I guess. But better than all that is definitely the excellent facial recognition, which again is a feature found on all three of these smartphones. All you've got to do is raise the phone to wake, and it will immediately stop hibernating. It'll scan for your face, and if it recognizes you, you're unlocked straight into your desktop. So as you can see there, nice and swift and easy. And that works really well even in low light, thanks to the fact that the display actually illuminates your gorgeous mug. And there's plenty of other great EmoutionUI features buried away in there. I've actually done a full in-depth tour of EmoutionUI 9, so you can see exactly what the best bits of that are and how it compares with EmoutionUI 8. As I say, the update should be coming to the P20 Pro pretty soon though. I'm also going to have a full run through of Magic UI 2 as well, some of the best bits you'll find in there. So if you are thinking of picking up the V20 or the Magic 2 or any other Magic UI smartphone, then that will show off some of the greatest software stuff. Now, of course, as all three of these are premium devices, you would probably expect the performance to be hot, and you would not be disappointed. The P20 Pro is the least impressive of the three, as it does rock Huawei's older Kirin 970 chipset. It is backed by a generous 6 gigs of RAM though, and I thought the performance is still absolutely fine despite the age. As with the others here, which rock the more up-to-date Kirin 980, basically just tap an app and the app loads straight up. You're not hanging around waiting. The UI tends to be pretty smooth. You will see the odd little stutter here and there, but nothing major certainly. In the case of the Mate 20 Pro, the Kirin 980 chipset is backed by 6 gigs of RAM. The View 20, you actually get a choice here in the UK. It's either 6 gigs of RAM in the base model or 8 gigs if you upgrade. And all three of them support a bit of Huawei's GPU Turbo 2.0 feature as well, which is great news if you're a PUBG mobile gamer, because it basically helps to maintain a nice smooth frame rate throughout your games. You see, of course, if you dive into the graphics settings, it is set to high on both cases. So even the P20 Pro with this or the Kirin 970 chipset, you still get it default into that high frame rate. You can of course chuck it up and of course get a nice bit of HDR graphics on the go there as well. So you can definitely expect a nice smooth and highly detailed experience when you are playing a bit of the PUBG mobile. So as you can see there, even from miles above, you can see all the crisp detail, all the individual buildings and everything. As you can see there, nice smooth frame rates, helped along again, of course, by that GPU Turbo. As you can see there, just nice smooth frame rates, which is lovely stuff. Oh, somebody's shooting me. Oh dear, better hurry this bit up. As the GPU Turbo does actually make a little bit of a difference, despite the fact that obviously the Kirin chipsets are pretty premium. They do deliver quite nicely on performance. So go check out my full in-depth GPU Turbo feature if you want to see more on what that actually does. As for the storage, you get 128 gigs as standard on the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro. Good luck filling that. Even if you shoot lots of 4K video and stuff, you should be absolutely fine. Here on the V20, actually the base model is 128 gigs, that's the one that I've got here, or you can upgrade to a 256 gig model if you really, really want. And of course you've got the usual storage cleaner features and all of that bollocks as well. And on to one of the major strengths of all three of these smartphones is of course the battery life as well. You get a massive battery stuffed inside all three phones. There's 4000 mAh here on the V20 and on the P20 Pro as well. The Mate 20 Pro actually ups that to 4200 mAh. And the great news is that the phones are generally quite energy efficient as well. Motion UI and everything does the job nicely. As you'll find that you'll easily get a day of life, even if you're absolutely hammering all three of these smartphones with Skype, with PUBG, all that kind of good stuff. And if you're a bit more restrained, you should be able to get a solid couple of days of life from a single charge. All three phones also support Huawei's Supercharge, so you can get a good bit of power back. Just half an hour at the plug will give you over 50% generally. So that's great news if you forget to charge it up overnight. Now, it's also worth mentioning, of course, that the Mate 20 Pro does support wireless charging as well, and it even has reverse wireless charging as well, so you can use the Mate 20 Pro to charge up another phone that also supports wireless charging, via the Qi standard, of course. Now, wireless charging is something that you don't get on the P20 Pro and the V20, but who really cares? It's also worth mentioning that the Honor View 20 actually supports a bit of liquid coolant, apparently, built in, which I'm pretty sure the P20 and the Mate 20 Pro don't. I certainly don't remember them ever mentioning it. But thankfully the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro seem to stay nice and cool even when I'm playing PUBG for a solid hour or so, so I wouldn't have thought it would really be an issue. So now then, what about that rear camera tech? Well, in the case of the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro, it's a triple lens camera, but they are actually different hardware setups. In both cases, you get a really nice primary lens. It's a 40 megapixel f1.8, I believe it is, on both of these handsets. You get nice crisp detail with your shots. In the case of the P20 Pro's secondary lens is actually a monochrome lens, it's 20 megapixel. That just helps to capture some extra detail with every snap, just for some really nice sharp results. Here on the Mate 20 Pro, you also get a 20 megapixel secondary lens, but it's an ultra wide angle lens, just gives you a little bit of extra flexibility, allows you to get a very different kind of shot when needed. And both of those blowers sport an 8 megapixel telephoto lens as well to get you up to 5 times hybrid zoom for some really nice looking shots of up distant subjects. Here on the Honor View 20, it's a very different setup. You get a single 48 megapixel primary lens, again great for those detail levels as you would expect. You don't actually get a secondary depth sensor or an ultra wide angle lens. What you do get is a TOF camera, time of flight 3D camera. That doesn't actually seem to do anything right now, but Honor suggests that you'll be able to use some funky 3D camera features with that. What it basically does is just accurately reads the distance between the camera and whatever subject it's shooting, so it can do a bit of 3D modeling, things like that. So we'll be interested to see what comes out the bag with that one. If we actually dive on into the camera app, you'll see it's a similar sort of experience on all three of these handsets. Now you do get Huawei's Master AI mode as it's come to be known, and what this basically does is a form of smart scene recognition. Basically can detect things like cats, food, things like that, and just kind of tweak the settings to suit that particular subject. It does tend to boost colours and apply sort of filter style effects, but you can easily knock it off if you're not a fan of that and you want a more sort of accurate image reproduction. I however quite like it, so I'm going to leave it turned on. You of course get a portrait mode in all three as well, and it does the job nicely, even though you've only really got the one lens here on the View 20. It certainly does the job nicely. Where all three really come into play, however, is the night mode, the excellent new night mode, which was introduced here on the P20 Pro. And that just takes a long exposure shot and works beautifully even when the phone is being held by hand. You don't need to rely on a tripod or anything like that, so you get nice, crisp, bright, clear results. Because one advantage of the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro is the fact that you do have that hybrid zoom feature. So just a quick tap and you can switch between 1 times, 3 times and 5 times zoom. And even at that 5 times level, the results are spectacular, really nice and crisp. So definitely good news if you do a lot of sort of touristy photography on like buildings, monuments, things like that. Here on the Honor View 20, of course, you just got the old digital zoom, which doesn't work quite as well, unfortunately. And of course, here on the Mate 20 Pro, you also have the ultra wide angle lens, which you can fall back on at any point. That just gives you a nice view of any particular vistas. If you've got a really busy cityscape, or if you just want to take a shot of a big group of friends, that definitely does the job nicely. So yes, highly recommend that one. If you jump on into the video, you can shoot, of course, up to 4K resolution video on all three of these smartphones. Of course, it defaults to 1080p at full HD. On the P20 Pro, 4K resolution results aren't great if you're moving and shooting at the same time, because the image stabilization is, to put it mildly, a wee bit balls. They definitely sorted that out for the Mate 20 Pro, and thankfully, those great smooth results have transferred over to the V20 as well. Hopefully, a future update will sort it out here on the P20 Pro too. As you can see there, you've got full 60 frames per second and everything as well, if you need it. We've also got the funky AI zoom feature on the Mate 20 Pro and the View 20 as well. And that just, as you can see there, just automatically adjusts the zoom to make sure that your subject is centered in the shot. It's a bit of a gimmicky feature, not entirely necessary because you can just move the phone around to keep your subject centered, but whatever. You've got full Pro controls with all three devices as well, so you can piddle about with the ISO levels, white balance, shutter speed, all that kind of thing if you know what you're doing. And back on the video tip, you also get a bit of slow motion action on all three. And this includes a new super slow motion as well, which as you can see shoots at 960 frames per second. Unfortunately, it only shoots at 720p, not full HD on all three of these as well. And then finally, if we just swap around to the front-facing camera, you get a 25 megapixel selfie snapper here on the View 20. It's actually a 24 megapixel, I believe, so ever so slightly pared down on the P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro. But to be fair, nice crisp selfies no matter what you're up to. You've got the portrait mode support as well, as you can see there. So the portrait mode obviously captures nice blurry background in the back and keeps you nice and crisp to help you to stand out. Otherwise, you've just got the bog standard photo mode. You do actually have some AI smarts here on the View 20 as well, and a bit of smart HDR on the Mate 20 Pro and the V20 as well. So that right there is how the Honor View 20 stacks up against the Huawei P20 Pro and the Mate 20 Pro. As I say, these are still two of the best smartphones you can bag right now, two definitely of my favorite phones of 2018. But the Honor View 20 more or less matches the Mate 20 Pro when it comes to the specs. It's got a Kirin 980 chipset, 6 gigs of RAM, almost the same size of battery, and a nice gorgeous 6.4 inch Full HD Plus panel as well. It's not quite as crisp, but definitely comes close. And of course, you do have the benefit of that dinky little camera thing there in the corner compared with this big old tash notch here on the Mate 20 Pro. We're still waiting on the UK pricing here for the View 20. That should be coming when it officially launches on January the 22nd. But if it's around the £400 to £450 mark, as we expect and hope, then it'll basically be close to half the price of the Mate, which makes it a very, very enticing prospect indeed, and definitely something for other 2019 smartphones to live up to. So let us know in the comments down below if you're tempted by the Honor View 20, and if not, why not? And don't forget to subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest mobile tech. Cheers everyone, love you!